Lakeview Valley had always been a quiet and peaceful place where green hills hugged the lake and sunlight touched the surface of the water, creating spectacular reflections. It was a true idyll for Mark and Emily. They had married 10 years ago and had thought they had the perfect life ever since. Their conveniently located home on the edge of the village was a place of love, comfort, and laughter. Mark worked as an architect, creating stunning buildings that graced the townscape, and Emily was a teacher at the local school. They shared a common interest in art and architecture, which brought them even closer together. One day, when they were celebrating their anniversary, Emily gave Mark an antique album with photos of their travels together, in which each picture was a story of their love. But as time went on, life began to change. A new character appeared on the horizon, the young and charming Lana, a new neighbor who had moved into the house next door. She came to faraway Lakeview after being transferred to a new job and quickly caught the attention of the entire village with her charm and beauty. At first, Mark and Emily invited Lana over for dinner to get to know her better. She quickly became a part of their lives and they began to spend a lot of time together. Lana became like a sister to Emily, but there were increasingly strange feelings in Mark's soul. His attention to Lana began to grow noticeably, and though he tried to hide it, Emily sensed that something was going wrong. In the evenings, when Mark returned from work, he often stayed up walking near the lake, and more than once his thoughts wandered to Lana. There was nothing he could do to explain the excitement that enveloped him every time he saw her. She was full of life, was active and passionate, which attracted him in a way Emily could not provide him. Emily, sensing the change in her husband, decided to talk to him. She abruptly asked him if he had any inkling that something was wrong between them. Mark struggled to admit his feelings, and although he loved Emily, his inner conflict was growing. He realized that he was in love with Lana, but he hated himself for it. Lana, for her part, noticed the tension between Mark and Emily and began to distance herself. She didn't want to become the cause of the breakup. However, her feelings for Mark began to grow stronger, and soon they were sharing their thoughts and dreams. Each unplanned meeting awakened in them an ever brighter realization that they could be more than just friends. One day, when Emily was away on a business trip, Lana and Mark found themselves alone. It was natural to go for a walk near the lake to spend time in each other's company. Lana had suggested a picnic the day before, and though Mark was confused, he agreed. The green hills and warm wind did wonders. They laughed a lot, remembering funny stories, sharing dreams, and talking about life. Suddenly, Mark caught himself looking at Lana with fondness. She was more than just a neighbor. The event that happened next turned their lives upside down. Under the sunset sky, their gazes met as if they realized that fate had something more in store for them. At that moment, they kissed. It wasn't just a kiss, it was a confession. Both felt the attraction, and it was not easy for them to understand what would follow. Back at home, Mark had feelings of guilt and fear. Emily was his favorite, and he didn't want to lose her, but Lana had become a part of his heart. He couldn't sleep thinking about how this could have ended. Meanwhile, Emily, realizing that Mark had become vulnerable and withdrawn, decided to arrange a romantic evening. She cooked dinner, hoping to bring back the old spark to their relationship, but when she saw his condition, she realized something was wrong and asked him what was bothering him. Mark didn't know how to answer. A few days after their kiss, Lana decided it was time to talk to Mark. She didn't want to ruin his family, but it was hard to keep hiding her feelings either. When they met at a coffee shop, Lana opened up to him about her thoughts and suggested, maybe we should distance ourselves. My life here isn't final, and I realize it would be the right thing to do, but I can't just stay friends. Mark was confused. He wished he could cut ties with Lana, but his feelings for her were too strong to simply ignore. He could feel the chasm growing between them, and this was probably his only chance to end it. However, after spending the evening thinking about it, he decided that he couldn't just let Lana go. He couldn't want her in his life while continuing to cheat on Emily. His heart was struggling with feelings of love and guilt. His life was becoming surreal. The next morning, having resolved the whole situation completely, he approached Emily and told her how he felt about Lana. Emily burst into tears and her world seemed to crumble. I thought we were family. How could you? She exclaimed. Mark felt absolute hopelessness. He loved Emily, but he also couldn't deny his feelings for Lana. At this moment, his life was in question, and he didn't know how to do the right thing. Emily raised her eyes to his, taking a step back as if searching for something she had lost. If you really love her, maybe we should break up. After that conversation, everything changed. Mark tried to adjust to a new relationship with Lana, but Emily continued to be a part of his heart. He was well aware that with each day he was with Lana, he was driving the knife deeper into Emily's heart. Lana, seeing Mark suffer, decided that she didn't want to be the cause of his pain. She decided to leave Lakeview, return to her hometown, and pursue her career. It was a painful but necessary step that she felt would set them both free. Thing was the same. Their relationship had become cold and indifferent, as if there was an impenetrable wall between them. They couldn't forget what had happened, and their world lacked the spark and understanding that had once been so important. Lana was on the other side of the phone, and they probably shouldn't be talking, but she had become a way of life for Mark, and he was beginning to feel with each passing day that he had wrongly broken up with them both. A few months later, when Emily and Mark were feeling a little more comfortable in their new roles, they suddenly received news about Lana. She had become a well known designer in her hometown, and her life was beginning to open up to possibilities. Mark realized he was proud of her, and his own heart was overtaken by the desire to reconnect again. He realized he had fallen in love again, but it was important to realize what he desired before taking steps toward his love. Finally, Mark gathered his strength and wrote Lana a letter. He explained that although his life had changed, the regrets of losing his feelings hadn't disappeared. He also talked to Emily and admitted that he couldn't love her the way he used to. For a while, Mark sat staring at his computer screen and weighed each word before sending Lana an email. He was scared to open up and confess his feelings, but it was even scarier to be left in the dark, not knowing how she would take his words. After he hit the send button, there was a feeling of relief inside him, but also anxiety at the same time. Lana received the letter, and as she read it, her heart beat faster. She couldn't believe she still held such an important place in his life. But at the same time, she had her own fears. Perhaps she shouldn't have returned to his world. Having made the decision to stay in her hometown and focus on her career, she wasn't sure if she was ready for this development. A few days later, Lana decided to respond. In her lines, she wrote, I appreciate your honesty, but at the same time, I don't know how I feel. I've accomplished a lot here, but I think of you the same way you think of me. Sometimes I think we should meet again and sort out our feelings. She added that although she had jumped to conclusions, her heart was always open to him, no matter the distance. Mark, after reading the reply, felt that there was a connection between them again, albeit at a distance. He realized it wasn't just a game, it was more than that. Discussing all of this with Emily made him feel awkward, but he knew he had an obligation to be honest. Emily, seeing his confusion, asked, What do you really want, Mark? You need to be happy. Mark spent a lot of time thinking. It was as if he was rediscovering himself, and in this new light, an understanding emerged. He realized that he couldn't stay with Emily simply because of convenience. He had to be honest with her and with himself. But he also knew that if he went back to Lana, there would be decisions and consequences. It was a weight he didn't want to carry, but his heart was pulling him to a place where there was room for new love. Lana soon moved to Lakeview for a few days to meet with some local clients for her new design line. This was her chance to see Mark. When he heard she was coming, he got very excited and began to feel his heart beat faster. They arranged to meet at the very cafe where they used to share their dreams and hopes. When Mark walked into the cafe and saw Lana, his heart pumped to the rhythm of old feelings. She looked stunning, confident, and successful. Seeing her again made him realize how much he had missed her. The conversation began with nostalgia for their shared moments and native memories. There was an energy in the air that had been missing for a long time. However, as they talked about their lives, Lana noticed how Mark still couldn't cut ties with Emily. She told him, You can't be with me if you don't know how you feel about Emily. Take on that weight, Mark. Free yourself. I can't be the cause of the pain you still carry. Mark realized that her words made sense. He began to reevaluate his feelings for Emily and how they had changed. They stayed in the cafe until closing time, discussing all that remained unresolved, and Mark felt the wall between them begin to crumble. The next morning, after gathering his thoughts, Mark decided to talk to Emily. He explained to her that they both deserved happiness and a sincere relationship. Emily was hurt to hear about his feelings for Lana, but she realized that Mark was hurting and couldn't continue to lie to herself and him any longer. I want you to be happy, even if it's not with me, she said with sadness in her voice. I hope you can find that happiness with Lana. This decision didn't come easily to her, but she knew it was the right thing to do. Inspired by Emily's decision, Mark returned to Lana. They met at the same cafe where they had their first meeting after their separation. He looked her in the eyes and said, I want to try again. I want to be with you if that's what you want too. Lana looked at him and felt her heart fill with hope. They started over, realizing that their love required effort and honesty. It wasn't just an affair, it was an opportunity to create something deep and real. From the moment they reunited, Mark and Lana became inseparable. They spent a lot of time creating projects together and finding inspiration in their surroundings. Their love blossomed, and they began to confidently move forward. At Lakeview, someone noticed a new spark in Mark's eyes. Several months passed, and despite new challenges, they both knew they were ready to create a future together. Lana worked passionately on her new project, which was a smash hit, and she increasingly felt supported by Mark, who believed in her talent. A few years later, Mark and Lana opened a joint design studio in Lakeview that brought their creative ideas and dreams together. Emily built her life anew, made new friends, and began her career in education, finding a new calling and powerful independence. Everything in their world was complicated and unpredictable, but each parallel story led to a major open question: what is true love? And each came to the conclusion that true love is not only passion, but also support, friendship, and a willingness to compromise at the expense of the other's happiness.